You're watching Ride Like a Local with Belt Dried Betty. I'm being joined right now by Steve Hammer and Mike Smith from the Syamu Summer Stomp. And guys, tell me a little bit about the 25th anniversary event and how things went for you this year.
Well, he's older because it did start from his birthday party. So every time we celebrate the Summer Stomp, we know Mike's getting 1 year older, as we all are. But yeah, it goes back 25 years with a year off. It was a great year, great success. Another I'd say out of the park, no incidents.
And you're the site manager for the Summer Stomp. Tell me what kind of challenges you faced setting that whole area up, because it was very well done.
Well, thank you. We had our normal challenges, but this is our second year on that location, so you know we've a little bit of practice doing it there. Had a few more vendors this year, but yeah, everything just sort of fell into place. We got some real good guys with the electronics there, or electricity rather. And they look after that for us. And yeah, we got a lot of people good on the crew setting things up. So yeah, actually went pretty smooth.
You guys had lots of camping available for people, all kinds of vendors, and tons of fabulous music. Let's talk about the music. Let people know what lineup they missed.
Well, just before we do that, let's just go back to Mike. I mean, Mike states one thing all the time, and he says, let's just make this the best party for everybody. And that's, I think, why it looks like such a success from the outside looking in. Very pliable. We always say we're Gumby. Somebody wants something, a vendor, a camper, somebody just visiting us, we just make it a good event, and we're a great host for them. And that's Mike's words coming through. He just says, I don't care if we make money, I just want to make this the best party ever. It's always been the thing, we have to make money or it won't happen, but that's my job. So. But anyways, the music, yeah, we missed a lot of great bands. The entertainment, just we keep stepping it up a little bit. I mean, there was great Barracuda that was well talked about. Tom Petty and Totally Tom and the Women of Rock. They were talked about. And then, of course, we had Kenny Shields and the Streetheart. And nice to see all the same faces in that band. And as far as I'm concerned, they hit it out of the park. It was a home run for them. They're talking about it on their Facebook and webpage today, and saying they wish they could have hung around a little bit longer. So we had 10 bands, and didn't hear a complaint about any of them.
Well, I was there to check out Legs, and they did an amazing job, as did ACBC and some of the other high voltage, yeah. But I like to call them ACBC because that's really what they are. You know, the one gentleman there, when he dropped his laundry on the stage, I thought that was cute when he had the ACBC across his arse. That was, you know, everybody that came to this event seemed to come away with some really good feelings about the community of Syamu. How has the community of Syamu been to work with?
Fantastic, just absolutely fantastic. They just welcome us with open arms, and we have absolutely no complaints. I mean, there's going to be the odd person in the community that says it's too loud, it's too this, it's too that, but all in all, it's been absolutely phenomenal for everybody. The businesses love it, bureaucrats love it, council loves it, and the general public and Syamu love it. So.
When I was there, unfortunately, because I didn't arrive till Saturday, I missed the Syamu burnouts, and I missed some of the rodeo games and some of the different things that transpired. But from everything I heard, people are just really embracing this. And it has become that, you know, open streets, free events, free things for people to take part in, and then the paid party. How has that been for building the Stomp?
Well, we have a vision that the downtown event will be 40,000 and the Stomp grounds will be, you know, maybe like a Buffalo Chip, but maybe of 7,500 to 10,000 down in the future. So that grounds will hold 5,000 people, no problem. Downtown Syamu, they embraced it. We've got room to expand down there. We can go around the corners, down the streets, and the bigger it gets down there, the more the people like it in Syamu. So.
What do you think is going to transpire for next year? I mean, I know this event's just done, but I also know you guys, and you're already, the gears are already turning, the smoke's already coming out of your ears. What kind of tidbit can you share with people of ideas that are being kicked around for next year?
Oh, we don't really want to let anything out of the bag yet here.
Oh, come on, this isn't airing until November, December.
We're going to keep it under our hat for now. There'll be some surprises for next year, though.
I kind of figured that. I'd heard a few rumors and grumblings, and I was hoping you'd spill the beans just a little bit.
It's just going to be a great event next year. Same place, of course. Same, always the third weekend in July, always. So the third Friday, come Thursday. Mike and I go back a long ways, and I always said this is going to become Biker Week sooner or later, and so we're now Thursday. Maybe we'll kick it off Wednesday, but come out, camp. You can move on the grounds and camp on Tuesday, and you don't have to be out until noon on Monday. So there's almost a full week of camping. We have lots of RV camping, of course, lots of tent camping, and river's right there. This venue is just absolutely phenomenal. It's easy to set up, and it's just a great venue.
Now, it was $100 for the event, and that included camping?
Yes, that includes the tent camping. Right. RV camping is $50, whether you're one night or the 6 nights. Your choice, $50. And I don't think that'll change.
No, probably not.
So, all in all, a pretty good value for people that want to come out and support the Stomp. Now, what kind of charitable organizations does the Stomp support?
Well, the past couple of years, of course, because we've gone a little bit backwards, we haven't been able to support any. But our major charitable organization we support is the hospice, which, of course, everybody knows the hospice, and it is a local hospice that runs around this area, Salmon Arm, Sycamoose, Armstrong area. And then I know the girls, all the tip money this year went to the SPCA. There's a park I know going in Sycamoose. We'll look around Sycamoose. Of course, we'll support whatever local community involvement and community events that are going on.
Well, so 2015 Summer Stomp in Sycamoose, and we're going to have to wait because the guys aren't giving it up as to what's coming on. Up next, a little time at Dreamcycle Motorcycle Museum in Balmoral, BC. The Sports Camera Store in West Edmonton Mall is your one-stop shop for drift and GoPro action cameras. We carry Canada's largest selection of action cam accessories, along with video sunglasses, hidden and surveillance cameras, and more. Visit www.sportscamerastore.com or stop in to our West Edmonton Mall location, lower level by the bay.
Community Futures Grand Prairie and Region. Business development assistance, business planning, cash flows, market research, business loans up to $150,000.
Community Futures, growing communities one idea at a time.
Welcome back to Ride Like a Local. I'm in Balmoral, BC, about to go and visit Mark Lane, collector and owner of Dreamcycle Motorcycle Museum. Mark, I want to start off by asking you a little bit of history as to how you became a collector and how you decided that starting a museum was the right thing.
Okay, that could be a long story. I started out when I was young. My dad was a technician with IBM and was into working on whatever, anything. And I got interested in motorcycles at a very young age. Bronco 50 was my first bike back in whatever, I don't remember now. And so then I started buying bikes in boxes. I'd advertise in the paper, I collect bikes in boxes, and people would call me and they'd bring me their, call me up, and I'd go and get their boxes of bikes in the shed, bring them home, and I'd put them together and then I'd sell them. And so I started doing quite a bit of that. And it actually, by the time I finished grade 12, I had owned well over 100 motorcycles by buying and fixing up and selling them. And now I wish I had kept a lot of those ones that I sold back then.
So at age 18 roughly, you were already an avid collector. And why? What was it? What influence did the motorcycle have in your life? What was that?
Well, it's just a lot of fun. You know, you get on that thing, and there used to be a farm down the road where we go riding middle of the night, during the day, whenever. They used to pile up all the chicken manure in big huge piles, and we get in there with our dirt bikes, and the manure would just be flying out the back end, and it was just crazy. A lot of fun, and you could do it without being on the road, without a license, just getting out in the bush and ripping around, and it was great. Just the enjoyment of it. And as I got older, then I was able to get my motorcycle license, which I got before I got my actual car driver's license. And I was able to work on them, and my buddies got bikes, and we worked on them together. So it was a fun thing to do with the friends all the time. And then we'd get out and go ripping around on the streets and probably do things we shouldn't have.
As a collector, you have gotten to know, you're not a historian, but you have gotten to know a fair amount of history of the various motorcycles, the brands, the marks that actually came to Canada. So let's talk a little bit about that history of the motorcycle and why it's fascinated you enough to bring in some of the rarest motorcycles in the world.
So for me, it's important that they're investment type motorcycles that I feel are going to go up in value, and the best ones of that are the really rare ones and historic ones that are owned by somebody that was special in some way, or something special about what the motorcycle did or where it went or something like that. There's something. It's not just a motorcycle that sits there. It's a motorcycle that has some kind of a history or something with it that's tied to that particular motorcycle and not just a motorcycle in general. Those are the bikes that I really like because it's a bike with a story. That's really interesting to me, and that kind of drives me for what I collect.
Now we're sitting beside an absolutely beautiful Vincent. And there's quite a story behind this motorcycle and the man that owned this Vincent. So let's go through a little bit of that history.
Okay, Al Hollinger, he was a collector. He loved motorcycles and was involved in motorcycles in many, many ways, from circus performing to all kinds of things. And he got sick, and his collection ended up coming up for sale. It was amazing when I went to his place just to see the bikes that he had collected, because they were all the same types of bikes that I would collect, and just to see them all in one place was amazing. This one in particular actually was listed on Kijiji, and I thought, well, that's a very rare bike to see on Kijiji, so I contacted the people that the number was for, and they said, well, we have a large collection of Al's motorcycles for sale. Would you like to come take a look at them? So I went down, and the lawyer and a gentleman that was dispersing of the estate is who I met there. So they took me through and showed me everything, told me a bit about Al, and that's how we ended up coming to a deal where I was able to bring the motorcycles to the museum. The one here is 1947 Vincent. I think it was one of Al's prized motorcycles. The Vincent is a very unique motorcycle in the fact that you can change the wheels out from front to back. You can change them without any tools. From 1948 till 1972, it was the fastest production motorcycle, and they quit making them in 1956. And so for all those years afterwards, it still had the record, even though they weren't making them, until Kawasaki came out with the 900. And that in itself is just an amazing piece of history.
What is it about the Vincent and the way it's impacted the history of motorcycling? I mean, yes, they're one of the fastest production bikes of its time, but they had some other unique things that made a Vincent kind of a premier motorcycle to purchase back in the 40s.
Well, the Vincent, yeah, it was a premier bike to purchase, and it was very expensive. And so not a lot of them were sold. It was handmade. There was only, in 1947, around 300 or so of these were made, all by hand. And that in itself was just an amazing thing. But there's so many unique features. For instance, the side stands, there's one on each side of the bike. So depending on which side of the bike you get off, you have a side stand. It doesn't matter if it's the left or the right. There's the frame, there is really no frame. The engine is actually the frame, and the metal components that make the rest of the bike just attach to the engine. I would say even a further step ahead of what a Ducati is, where the motor bolts into the frame and just hangs there. The Vincent actually, the components just attach to the motor. And the frame is actually in 2 or 3 components that attach.
What would you say is the bike that came to Canada that probably impacted more racers than any other bike?
I would say the one that impacted more young people would be the Ducati 916. When it came out, it was the ultimate dream for any young kid that ever wanted a motorcycle, including me. and along with it was its performance and everything else, but it did gain the name Sex on Wheels, and that was because it was so beautiful and so enjoyable to ride. And maybe I shouldn't be saying that.
Stay tuned, because when we come back, Mark reveals his favorite motorcycle.
You bought your bike from the brand you trust the most. That's what Dalton Timmis is for your insurance options. As a specialized motorcycle insurance carrier, we can get you the best coverage, customized to fit you at the very best price. Call 1-888-385-8466 or visit daltontimmis.com now to get your free quote.
Growing communities one idea at a time is Community Futures Grand Prairie and Region, providing business planning, cash flows, market research, and business loans. Visit www.cfofgp.com to see how we can help you. What was the predecessor of the dirt bike?
Well, for the average young kid like myself, the predecessor for the dirt bike was the street bike that was stripped down with a knobby tire on the back. And that was the easiest thing to get a hold of, and you'd take it out in the bush and you'd just give that thing wide open. And you know, it was the Yamaha 100 twin cylinder little bike that had nothing left on it but the wheels and the engine and the and some dirt bike bars. And you know, a lot of young people like me couldn't afford to go buy an actual dirt bike, and so those street bikes stripped down, that was the best dirt bike you could imagine.
When we talk about Canadians and motorcycles, is there any one individual in Canadian motorcycle over the years that stands out the most in your mind for their contribution to the sport?
I guess one of the people that would have made a large contribution to for Canada would have been Michael Duff, and he raced for Yamaha in the early 70s on these crazy two-stroke motorcycles that just dominated in the racing circuits. Basically, nobody could touch those things. If you weren't on a Yamaha, you weren't winning. And he's been one of the best Canadian racers of all time. Michael Duff, I believe, actually owned a motorcycle shop where he sold the Yamahas in Ontario, and he later became Michelle Duff and still lives in Ontario today. Michelle Duff actually did not compete, but did do some tours where you take the old bike out and race it for the public to see at some of these shows over in Europe, and I believe on the Isle of Man too, where everybody comes and you get to watch the old bikes race.
The motorcycle has always represented a certain amount of freedom. What do you think the motorcycle's contribution to our culture has been?
Well, I would say for guys like me, you know, to get out on a bike when you've been running a business or you're in a high stress situation, and I think this goes for anybody that's ridden a bike way back in the day, you get out on a bike and you forget everything else. You get into that corner, you get the wind, you get everything going on, the scenery, you go up the road, you smell everybody's barbecue going, and just the whole thing comes together on a motorcycle. It pulls you into like another world or another realm, which really I think relaxes you and takes you away from the pressure that you feel everywhere else. And I think that people over all the years have felt that when they've been riding a motorcycle, and that's probably one of the big drawing cards that brings people into that from whatever situation that they're in.
As a collector, what is that one bike that has always eluded you that you would absolutely give your right arm to have in your museum?
Well, there are a few, but a Bruff Superior SS100 would be amazing. That would probably be, at this point, the one on the top of my list, yeah.
And what is it about the Bruff Superior that you loved so much? Is it the lines?
You know, it's everything. It's the look of it, the technology, the rareness of it, the beauty. These motorcycles, to me, are pieces of art. And that's why I set them up on stands and try and make it look like a picture on the wall, because you can see the motor and some of them you can't, but the whole thing is just, it's like a piece of art hanging on the wall. And that bike is just an amazing piece of art from way back in the day. And that's what I like about all these bikes, really, is just they're pieces of moving art.
As I look around this beautiful place to dream, I see bikes from pretty much every era. From back in the 1900s, at the very, very inception of the sport, all the way to today. Out of the motorcycles that are in here, which is your favorite?
You know, that's a very hard question. Every one of the bikes that I've purchased and have on display in this museum are all very, very special in one form or another. I don't bring anything to the museum that isn't really special or unique in some particular way, and because of that, it's very hard to make a decision from the old 1912 Indian or the Pierce being so advanced in their technology and just the amazing things that they were doing right at the beginning of the time of motorcycles, to the Ducati 916 or 851 sitting here that many years later. And to decide on a particular one motorcycle, I can't.
Oh, come on, there's got to be one motorcycle that tweaks your heartstrings just a little bit more, not because of its history, but just as an individual motorcycle lover. There's got to be one motorcycle in particular that tugs at your heartstrings.
I ride a Ducati 916.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That makes an awful lot of sense.